Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's The Hindu News Analysis. Myself Nitin K. Biju, I'll be appearing for the civil service interview this year. In today's news analysis, we'll be discussing about 9 important news articles in the Hindu newspaper today. Coming to the first page, the headlines: Health Ministry issues new guidelines for workplaces. So, the Health Ministry has told that if there is one or two cases in an office, then there was no need to close the entire office. And if a large outbreak is detected in that office, then the building has to be shut down for only 48 hours and disinfected. So here we can say that the criteria are being relaxed, so the idea of living with the virus is coming into picture. And coming to the daily tally, daily numbers in the increase, with more than 5600 infections and 158 deaths recorded across the states in India. May 19, that is yesterday, marked a new daily high. The cases have been steadily rising in the last 5 days. So the total number of cases have been increased to 1 lakh 6,425, out of which 60,885 are active cases and 42,224 people have recovered. Also, the total death toll is 3,360. The recovery rate in the country is around 38.73 percentage. Coming to the second news, 3 lakh evacuated as Amphan hurtles towards Bengal coast. The super cyclone Amphan, which has weakened slightly, is expected to make landfall between Dhika in West Bengal and Hathia Islands in Bangladesh on Wednesday afternoon, the India Meteorological Department said on Tuesday evening. So, initially the cyclone, this is a super cyclone and it was classified as category 5 cyclone. So now it is expected to reduce in its intensity a bit. So the cyclone classification is based on the wind speeds and the destruction potential it has. Okay. So and the landfall, it might reach the coast on today afternoon, right? So coming to the next article, AP gas leak. Supreme Court declines to interfere with NGT order. So the news is regarding the styrene gas leak which happened in Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. So initially the NGT had ordered the LG polymer plant to pay around 50 crore as interim compensation, as well as they had set up a 5-member fact-finding committee. So in response of this, the LG Polymer had approached the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court has declined to interfere with the NGT order, that is National Green Tribunal order. Coming to the next article, a careless response. The migrant workers, they are the backbone of the India's economy, have been left in the lurch since the lockdown began. So this is again an article on the difficulties faced by the migrant workers. In India, the informal sector accounts for over 80% of the non-agricultural employment. This is a staggering number that has unprecedented significance in the past few weeks in the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic and its economic impact. So, among this 80% informal sector, the most vulnerable people in this sector are the migrant workers. The migrant workers include the construction workers, the painters, delivery boys, cooks, cleaners, and factory workers, among others, who have traveled far to eke out a meager livelihood, almost always without social protection, healthcare benefits, and minimum decent standard of living. As we all know, most of these migrant workers have a very minimal living conditions. Like they might be living in slums and all with minimum facilities for not even water supplies might be available in these slums. So their livelihood has they live in a very pathetic condition, right? So they are the most affected also. Also, we have seen that recently many states like UP, MP, Punjab, and Gujarat, they have suspended most of the labor laws that protect the right of the poor workers in the name of ease of doing business, right? To attract the industries which are exiting China and also this was the reason given by those states. Also, it was a slap when the center and the states passed the buck to each other on train fares for migrant workers for the journey home. Where so the center and the states were not willing to pay for the train journey of the migrant workers and all. So also the migrant workers didn't have the money to pay even for their daily subsistence, then how can they pay the money to go to their native states? Also, Karnataka had decided to cancel the Shramik trains, ostensibly for logistical reasons. So Shramik trains were the special trains which were started to transport migrants to their states, right, respective states. Also, they have faced many other difficulties, like 16 of these migrant workers died on railway tracks in less than 2 months. Several scores of migrant workers have died on their grueling walk home while they brave the scorching sun with blisters on their feet. Also, some migrant workers sitting on the road were sprayed with disinfectant by medical and fire department officials in Bareilly. So you can see that the migrant workers are treated with the least dignity. They are treated worse than animals, right? So that is the bad situation which is happening with migrants workers as of now. Also, coming to the laws regarding the migrants, there are laws that are supposed to protect the right of these workers. One is the Interstate Migrant Workmen Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Services Act 1979, as well as the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act of 2008. But these acts proved to be an eyewash, offering very little protection to this dislocated workforce on the ground. So these acts are also not that effective in protecting the migrant workers. So, coming to the economic contribution of the migrants, by some estimates, migrant workers contribute to about 10% of the India's GDP. But at the present juncture, that backbone runs the risk of herniating, and we have only ourselves to blame. So, because of us and the government, the migrant workers are suffering in a very bad manner. So, that is what the article talks about. Now coming to the next article, CBI alerts authorities of malware threat. So this comes under prelims and GS3 also. Under GS3 it comes under cyber security, and for prelims the definitions. I mean the name of the malware, as well as the definition of malware. What is a Trojan? What is meant by phishing? So these concepts will become important for prelims in the prelims perspective. So the Central Bureau of Investigation has sent alerts to all the states, union territories, and the central agencies on a malicious software that uses an update related to COVID-19 pandemic. So this malware uses an update related to COVID-19 in the name of COVID-19 pandemic. They try to hack the financial information. So the alert related to banking Trojan and Cerberus. So Cerberus, just keep the name in remember the name. Cerberus is the name of the malware. So it has been sent on the basis of inputs received from Interpol. It is primarily used to steal financial data such as the credit card numbers. So this malicious software takes advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to impersonate and send SMS using the lure of COVID-19 related content to download the embedded malicious link. Also it uses the phishing campaign tricks. Okay, so what is this phishing? We'll be discussing in the next slide. So phishing campaigns to trick users into installing it into their smartphone. So the users will be lured to install this malware into their smartphone, and thereby the financial data is at risk. It will be hacked. Also, the Trojan can also overlay attacks to trick victims into providing personal information and can capture the two-factor authentication details. So, what is this two-factor authentication details? As we all know, in like as India is moving to a cashless economy under the Digital India program, so there were many efforts to promote security, security of the cash transactions. One of that is two-factor authentication details. So in simple words, if I say what is this two-factor authentication, I can say it an example. One is as we all know, like for many transactions we have this username and password, right? So that is one factor of the authentication. So that is the username and password. And what is the second factor? The second factor of authentication is OTP. One time password will be sent to our mobile phone. Only if we get the one time password, then only we can continue the transaction, right? So this username password along with this OTP, this is an example of a two factor authentication, right? So this Trojan, it also tricks people into providing this two-factor authentication details also. So that is all about the news. So what is a malware? Malware is a generic term used to describe any form of malicious software. Example, it can be a virus, it can be a Trojan horse, it can be a spyware, adware, malicious ActiveX web page, rootkit, zombie, etc. So these are different types of malware. The idea is simple: any software which can be used to create uh, 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 create any kind of issue in the computer, that is called a malware. So what are Trojan horses? Trojan horses, it is actually there is a mythology on Trojan horses. It is full of trickery. As a mythological Trojan horse it was named after. So a Trojan horse at first glance will appear to be useful software, but it will actually do damage when installed or run in your computer. So this is what this kind of softwares are called as Trojan horse. So initially seeming to be a useful software, but later it will create damage to the computer. So that is Trojan. And coming to phishing, what is this phishing? Phishing is actually a technique where emails, SMS, or phone calls are being sent to us. So we might get a receive an email telling us to install this particular link. For example, you will get COVID related data if you install the software, some kind of that kind of techniques using email, SMS, and phone call. So this is called as phishing. So what they try to phish, they try to get our username, password, and all using this kind of technique. So these are various techniques of cyber crimes. Now coming to the next article, India US to collaborate on vaccine trials. So India and the US plan to work together on vaccine research and testing for COVID-19, the US health officials said here on Tuesday. Also, in the context of the current pandemic, partners under the Vaccine Action Program are planning to collaborate on development and testing of vaccine candidates and diagnosis for COVID-19. So here you have this article is important from prelims perspective as well as GS2 perspective under IR. Okay, so under prelims you have to learn about this Indo-US Vaccine Action Program or VAP. So the VAP or the Indo-US Vaccine Action Program, it is a 33-year collaboration between the US National Institute of Health and the Indian Department of Biotechnology and the Indian Council of Medical Research along with other partners. So here you have to learn whether that vaccine action program, it is a 33-year collaboration between India and US. Okay, not any other countries. And the second thing which we have to learn here is which all are the Indian departments who are involved in this VAP. They are DBT as well as the ICMR. Also, the US has given 50 ventilators and they are expected in India shortly. The embassy said as part of the donation of 200 ventilators announced by the President Donald Trump last week. These ventilators will be paid for by the US Agency for International Development, USAID, and are part of $5.9 billion funding announced till date to India. So US will be given this much of funding for India to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, the US has also done a worldwide commitment of around $900 million and will be made available for combating the COVID-19 pandemic. The US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said it would separately fund the government of India rupees $3.6 million to support prevention, preparedness, and response activities in India in collaboration with the government of India. So here you can see that India will be receiving aid from USAID, United States Agency for International Development, and it amounts to around $5.9 million, as well as India will be separately receiving aid of around $3.6 million from US Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So that is what this article is about. Now coming to the next article, so this is important for prelims as well as GS1 under geography as well as GS3 under disaster management. So hotter oceans spawn super cyclones. So the record temperatures in the Bay of Bengal have set the stage for storm systems. So higher than normal temperatures in the Bay of Bengal may be wetting super cyclones, and the lockdown may have played a role. So here the article will be analyzing on two factors which might be responsible for the increased incidences of the cyclones in the Bay of Bengal. One is the increase in the normal temperatures, as well as an indirect effect caused by the lockdown also. So super cyclone Amphan, that is barreling towards West Bengal, is the strongest storm to have formed in the Bay of Bengal since the super cyclone of 1999 that has ravaged Paradeep in Odisha. So in 1999, another super cyclone had happened. So this super cyclone is expected to be similar to that 1999 super cyclone. So one reason is the warmer waters. That is, the global warming is causing the increased temperature in the Bay of Bengal, right? And in other areas like Arabian Sea as well as the Indian Ocean. So cyclones, how this affects the cyclones? Cyclones gain their energy from the heat and moisture generated from the warm ocean surfaces. So warmer, as the ocean temperature increases, the evaporation increases, the moisture which the cyclone gets, the cyclone develops, it also increases, right? So this year the Bay of Bengal has posted record summer temperature, a fallout as researchers have warned of global warming from fossil fuel emissions that has been heating up the ocean. So this we all know, global warming is warming the oceans, and this is resulting into increased incidence frequency of cyclones. This we all know, right? Also, cyclone Amphan intensified from a category 1 cyclone to a category 5 in 18 hours, an unusually quick evolution. So category 1, there are 5 categories of cyclones, and these categories are based on the maximum speed, that is kilometer per hour, at which the cyclone travels. So category 1 is the lowest speed, and category 5 is the highest speed, most severe situation, right? So, and this transition from category 1 to category 5 has happened in a very fast manner, that is within 18 hours. So that is also a cause of concern. So also it has been warned that the warming around the India is no longer restricted to just the Bay of Bengal, but also to the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. So there can be increased incidences of cyclones even in the Arabian Sea also. So usually the cyclones originated in the Bay of Bengal, right? But the increased warming up of the Arabian Sea might cause the cyclone to originate in the Arabian Sea also. So this is another cause of concern. And in the coming years, due to this increased warming up of the oceans, the cyclones and its frequencies are expected to increase, and its destructive capacity is also supposed to increase. Now coming to another impact which is rarely discussed is the lockdown impact. The article is saying that the lockdown might have indirectly contributed to cyclones. Let us see how it is. Another researcher said that the elevated ocean temperatures this year could in part be explained by the lockdown. How? See, due to lockdown, there has been reduced particulate matter emissions, right? During the lockdown, it meant fewer aerosols, such as the black carbon, that are known to reflect sunlight and heat away from the surface. So due to this pollution, so it is not a valid I mean, it is a valid reason, but uh, I mean so this can't be the case. Like for example, pollution increases, right? What happens is, when pollution increases, there will be more particulate matter and aerosols in the atmosphere, so it will cover the sun's radiation to come to the earth, right? So it will reflect a part of the sun's radiation. So this usually happens above the oceans also. So every year, increased particulate pollution from the Indo-Gangetic plains is transported towards Bay of Bengal, and this also influences the formation of clouds over the ocean. So this year, the pollutions were less, as well as so the cloud formation above Bay of Bengal was less. So this is one of the reason why the Bay of Bengal have heated up more than usual. So fewer clouds and more heat in Bay of Bengal may have amplified the strength of the cyclone. So this is the impact of the lockdown on the cyclones. Coming to the next article, we are not a proxy of any country, says Taliban. So this news is important under GS2 and for interview purpose. Under GS2, it comes under international relations, where India-Afghanistan relations come into picture. And coming to interview perspective, whether India should continue, whether India should initiate talks directly with the Taliban or not. So this question can be asked from the interview perspective also. So now Taliban spokesperson is telling that the Taliban is not a proxy of any country, and it does not want to interfere in the internal affairs of other nations. So this is a very important announcement made by the Taliban, as Taliban is actually said to be the proxy of Pakistan, right? Because Taliban was created by Pakistan only. So now the Taliban is saying that it is independent from Pakistan, as well as it doesn't want to interfere in the domestic in the affairs of other nations. So this announcement might have a good, big implication in India's security concerns related to Kashmir and all, right? So, the spokesperson, Mr. Shaheen, also indirectly dismissed social media reports about the outfit's opinion on the Kashmir issue, vowing to stay away from the domestic affairs of other countries. So, if this is this is a policy of the Taliban, then it will have a good impact on the India's relationship with Taliban and Afghanistan, right? So, if Taliban doesn't want to interfere in the Kashmir issue. Mr. Shaheen said that the Taliban is an independent entity and will not join hands with others to fight and will not join hands with others to fight the ISIS. So based on the Doha Accord with the US, so Doha Accord is the agreement signed between Taliban and the United States. So Taliban will not allow anyone to use the soil of Afghanistan against anyone. So here they are also telling that they are also not willing to fight against the Islamic State also. That is another announcement which he has made. So anyway, as of now, India is had to decide on whether to engage the Taliban or not. So India should take its own time and take a pragmatic decision. India should not be completely isolated from the Afghanistan matter also. Pragmatically, it should have some backdoor arrangement with the Taliban, because India should not be left out in the end, right? So that is what this article talks about. Now coming to the next news article, criteria for medium units to be revised. Recently, we have seen that Nirmala Sitharaman has revised the definition of the MSMEs. So that definition has again been revised, right? So that is what this news article is about. Days after changing, so this comes under prelims, under definition of MSMEs, and under GS3 under economy. So days after changing the definition of MSMEs, the government has decided to further revise the criteria for medium-sized units by enhancing the investment and turnover limits up to 550 crore and 200 crore respectively. So earlier Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had last week announced a change in the definition of the MSMEs. So we'll first see what Nirmala Sitharaman has announced last week, and then we'll see what change has been made presently. So, as per the revised definition, any firm with an investment up to 1 crore and turnover under 5 crore will be classified as micro. That is for micro. And for small industries, the investment should be 10 crore and a turnover should be up to 50 crore. And coming to medium industries, the investment is supposed to be up to 20 crores and the turnover should be under 100 crores, right? So this is what was announced in the previous week by the finance minister. Now what happened is, only so micro and the small, the definition of the micro and the small industries remain the same, whereas the definition of the medium industries have been changed. So Nitin Gadkari is telling, he's the minister for MSMEs. He is telling that we have taken a decision to raise the up to 20 crore investment to up to 50 crores. So the 20 crore investment limit will be raised to 50 crores, and the turnover limit will be increased to 100 crores. Earlier, 200 crores. Earlier it was 100 crores, now it will be increased to 200 crores. So this is the small change which is being made in the definition of the MSMEs, and it is only related to the medium industries, medium enterprises. The micro and the small definitions remain the same. Also, Mr. Gadkari also said the government plan to raise the MSME's contribution to India's exports to 60% from the 48% at present. So this statistics you can use it for mains under GS3. Presently, the export share of MSMEs are around 48%, and the minister wants to increase it to 60%. Also, the MSME sector's contribution to the country's GDP is presently 29%, and they are planning it to increase to 50%. So these statistics can be used under GS3 in the mains answer writing. So that is what coming to China factor. Mr. Gadkari also said that India should use this COVID-19 as an opportunity to attract investment from the companies which are exiting China. So this is what the article is about. So please take a note of this change in the definition. It can come in prelims. So that is all for today's Hindu news articles. I hope you understood the video. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, as well as share it with your friends. Have a great day. Thank you.